In order to defeat the Tetracide and save Gateway City, Princess Diana will need to commit to some very serious blood magic. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 4 and find out together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, Wonder Woman's Hail Mary play of casting a massive deafness spell over the entirety of the city has thankfully paid off. For the time being, people are safe from the Tetracide's hypnotizing call. It's also here we're introduced to another long-running Wonder Woman supporting character in the form of Etta Candy, who, as we learn later on, is actually a former cop turned private investigator who was on her way to go and help with the crisis any way she could. Etta also just so happens to be a longtime friend of Steve Trevor, meaning that when Wonder Woman needed components for a magic spell, he thought to bring her to Etta's sister Gia's shop. As Wonder Woman says, Gia is quite the witch in her own right, though in reality I think she just owns one of those hippy-dippy new age medicine shops, which honestly works out great because Wonder Woman is going to need a lot of components for this spell because oh man is it a doozy. The plan is to try and regrow Wonder Woman's arm once again so she can be at full power for the final fight with the Tetracide. Thankfully, things like valerian root and even hemlock are actually a lot easier to come by here in the mortal world than they actually are in hell. Etta says that Steve had described Wonder Woman to her previously, but oh boy do those stories do her no justice when she's standing right in front of you. Now this arm spell is blood magic, meaning that to pull it off properly, Wonder Woman is going to need Etta, Steve, and Gia to give up a little blood of their own, which they're more than happy to do given the dire situation them and the city are in right now. I also like the subtle allegory story they're going on here. Wonder Woman's new arm is literally made in part thanks to the blood, sweat, and tears of her new friends, basically a whole covenant started right here and now. Also, in the magic spell that Wonder Woman recites, she makes reference to the Hecate, basically the ancient Greek goddess of magic. We've seen the character a couple times already in the main universe, but here in this darker absolute universe, the Hecate ends up taking on a completely new form. In fact, we get a wonderful bit of juxtaposition, wherein Diana casting the spell in the present is juxtaposed to a very similar scene wherein Diana's adopted mother, Cersei, cries out in anger to the goddess of witchcraft for a believed slight. You know, it's one of those classic literary "why do you make me suffer, O Lord" scenes. Why did you trap me here in hell? Why have you saddled me with this child and this great responsibility when I didn't ask for it? It's at that point that Hecate actually appears to Cersei, saying that this is all part of some much grander, much more godly cosmic game, and that she has already seen the future and snippets of what this young Princess Diana will become, the good she will do for the world, but more importantly, the good she will do for Cersei and vice versa. In many ways, they needed each other, and the Hecate never saw this as a punishment, but as a strange kind of reward. Cersei even says that it was on that night she began work on Wonder Woman's trademark lasso that she would go on to call Sacrifice, which, you know, takes on a whole different meaning now that we know its true origin story, doesn't it? Now, back in the present, the ritual ends up being a success. Wonder Woman is back to full power now, and she hopes it will actually be enough to defeat the Tetracide once and for all. Before she leaves, though, her and Etta end up having a moment together, wherein Diana sees the letter that she wrote from the beginning of the issue when she was deaf and is genuinely touched at the idea that this woman was so willing to try and be a hero and a peacekeeper despite having no powers of her own. Now, how on earth is Wonder Woman going to try and defeat the Tetracide, this horrifying creature that has held all of Gateway City in its grasp since this series began? Well, for starters, Diana decides to create a sonic trap to help lure the Tetracide away from the rest of the city, it having actually started to move more and more inland when it couldn't bring any prey directly to itself. Also, Wonder Woman has decided to grow her sword, which was already pretty damn massive, to the size of a freaking skyscraper. Wow, and I mean wow. Move over, Buster Sword, take a backseat, Dragon Slayer. This is the hot new giant sword on the block. You can also see why Wonder Woman needed both arms to pull this plan off, and crazy as it is, it actually ends up working. Wonder Woman summons all of her might and brings down the full force of her sword on a distracted Tetracide, cutting it completely in half. The day is saved, and the local news that's been following Wonder Woman since all of this began is hailing her as a hero. However, in the halls of power deep within Washington, Wonder Woman is not being received the same way. You see, the president's national security advisor views views Wonder Woman as every bit a dangerous threat as the monster she just defeated. But why could that possibly be? Well, you see, her name is ultimately revealed to be Veronica Cale, as in Wonder Woman's answer to Lex Luthor, one of her most long-running villains, who, as the comic comes to an end, is already looking to paint Princess Diana as public enemy numero uno. And so that was Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 4, everybody, and I thought this was another really solid, really exciting, really pulse-pounding finale to this first big story arc. Hats off to Kelly Thompson, too, for basically making the whole thing seem easy when it comes to reintroducing Wonder Woman's entire supporting cast in record time. We got Steve, we got Etta, we got Cersei, we even got classic villains in waiting like Veronica Cale and like the Cheetah, and we're only 4 issues in. This new take on Wonder Woman never fails to fascinate me, this woman who has a deep, abiding love for humanity and mankind, so much to the point that she is willing to go to some pretty dark and macabre places if it means saving them. There's also the spectacle too. Absolute Batman and Absolute Superman have their own spectacle, but here the whole thing is really turned up to 11. What if losing an arm couldn't slow Wonder Woman down? What if she was so powerful she could wield a sword bigger than all outdoors? And hell, if this is what they do in the first 4 issues, I have to ask, what are they going to do for an encore? I also really appreciate too that Cersei continues to be a character in this story. Despite being left behind in Hell, the series still makes time to circle back to her and greatly expand upon her relationship with a young Diana. Though part of me also has to wonder what Cersei's ultimate fate is going to be, because this is a story drawing greatly from Greek tragedy. We see that she actually did have her doubts raising Wonder Woman early on. Will those doubts end up surfacing again? Could we see Cersei become a villain, or will she be cut down before her time? I don't know for certain, but you can bet that I'm really invested to find out where the series is going to go from here. Overall, I would give this one another very strong 9 out of 10. The Absolute line continues winning in 2025.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow, and help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye bye.